About 2 or 3 years ago, I was out with a friend shopping, getting lunch, casual things like that, a seemingly stress-free day. And all of a sudden, when we got into the car, my throat got very tight and I couldn't breathe. And with every breath that I took, it was getting tighter and tighter and tighter. That is an anxiety attack. And that is something that I suffer with on a regular basis. It can be sudden and it can make you feel like there is no escape. The symptoms, the different types of anxiety, and ways to cope with this disorder are all things that I think we should know more about. Diagnosing anxiety is not always an easy task. Many people like to self-diagnose, which can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing, as many people do not know what anxiety consists of. Those that have anxiety attacks can suffer from a month up to a year, or longer if it goes untreated. And anxiety attacks can last for up to 10 minutes or longer depending on the situation. They can affect your sleep, whether you get too much or not enough, and they can also give you mood swings. And they are usually brought on by triggers, but can happen spontaneously. As you can see by this graphic, there are many different symptoms of anxiety, and there are many different subdivisions of these symptoms. Anything can cause an anxiety attack if you are the one suffering. And there are many different types of anxiety. According to Abigail Powers-Lott, PhD, panic disorder, social anxiety, and separation anxiety are some of the more common forms. Panic disorder is a recurrent or unexpected attack or a sudden period of intense fear for no reason. Social anxiety or social phobia is a general intense fear of social performance or social situations, such as public speaking or even going into a restaurant or going to school. Small things can give you social phobia. Separation anxiety is a fear of being alone or being without another person. And it's more commonly seen in children, but adults definitely can suffer as well. And there is a form of anxiety called selective mutism, which is very rare. Not many people have it, but it occurs when people fail to speak in public. And I don't necessarily mean public speaking, but if you're walking down the sidewalk and someone says hello, that person would be unable to respond as they have selective mutism. As you can see by this graphic here, there are several different types of anxiety, some of which I've talked about today, and there are many, many more. And if I tried to include all of them, I would run out of time. There are many different subdivisions to these types of anxiety, but there are also many different ways to treat and or cope with these types of anxiety. According to the Mayo Clinic, there's no way to predict anxiety. There's no way to predict if you're going to have it or a way to predict an attack, but you can ease them, if you will. Staying active is another one. If you're active and you're exercising, that creates endorphins and that counteracts the anxiety attack that you might be having. Avoiding alcohol and drugs is another big one. Alcohol is a major depressant, and drugs, when you're coming down from the high, can also make you depressed, which can induce anxiety. And you can't be afraid to talk about it, whether it be with your family or your friends or your pet or a random stranger, like a psychologist or a professional. You have to be able to talk about it. Talking about it really does help, and it can help make you better. You can also participate in CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy, which is basically going to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist and then just trying different ways to kind of change your mental thinking, change it from unhealthy thoughts to healthy thoughts, making sure that you know the difference between the two. And you can also try medication. They have anti-anxiety pills, antidepressants, and beta blockers. And all of those, either one of those is a good choice. They also have natural remedies, essential oils, things like that. Anything and everything can help anxiety. As you can see by this graphic I've included, it simply says, mark one thing that can cause anxiety, and the person who is taking this test circled everything, because literally anything can cause an anxiety attack. Anything can bring it on, and anything can change it just like that. Mental illness, however, is not something that can be made light of. It's not something to joke about. There are many people in the world that are suffering from far worse mental illnesses, but anxiety is the more common one because there's so many different subdivisions. There are hundreds and hundreds of different anxiety disorders and hundreds of different subdivisions of those anxiety disorders. Symptoms the different types of anxiety and ways to cope with this disorder are all ways that we can better learn about this disorder. I've experienced this firsthand, and I would not wish this on my worst enemy. I'm lucky enough to not have a very intense form of anxiety, and it definitely makes me grateful for the life that I have. Thank you.